Morning, guys. I've gone from 86 kilos to 64 kilos over the past year and a half now since I started cycling more seriously. So I figured I'd show you guys not just the cycling aspect of that, but also my diet aspect of that. And because it's a two-pronged thing. It's both what I do on the bike, but it's also what I do in daily life in terms of consistency in eating. That has allowed me to achieve that. So, and not just achieve it, but maintain it, because that's been the hardest thing for me in the past, is maintaining. I've gone from 104 kilo in high school down to about 75 kilo or so, and then I ballooned back up to about 95 kilo. I wasn't able to hold it. So being able to actually hold the weight and keep the weight off and make it part of my lifestyle has been pretty big achievement for me. Thought I'd do about 140k. Most of that's going to be zone 2. And then halfway through each loop that I'm doing, go do some intervals up a Cat 2 mountain. I know I'll be able to do the first interval set and all the endurance, but we'll see about the second intervals. Because right now this is probably going to take about 6.5 to 7 hours worth of riding. So it's a pretty big day. We'll start with some breakfast here, make some coffee, and wake up. But I'm already a little bit hungry, so go ahead and eat a pretty big breakfast. We're going to start with some corn disc. So it's just corn. I don't know. It's a thing I found here in China. I used to do oats back in the US, but I can't find safe gluten-free oats here yet. And it's just corn, but it has a lot of calories to it, which is good for today, not so good on a normal day if you're not exercising. And then next up, I'm just going to add some protein powder. Now, this isn't the best protein powder out there. This is soybean protein powder, and it's has nothing else in it, which is great, but it has a little bit more fat in it and not as much protein as I would like, but it does do the job. And because today is also a big day, I'm going to add a little bit of sugar to this. Normally, I'm perfectly happy without sugar in this. I don't need like a sugary cereal. Just add a little bit to get a few more grams of carbs in there. And then some milk. And you guys will notice that I weigh everything out. That's the only way I have found to actually keep track of what I'm eating and to not overeat. And now it's actually kind of more towards the point of making sure I don't undereat. So I have a kitchen scale that I bought back in the US, and then I use an app called Macros. 129 grams of carbs, 39 protein, 25 fat, and 3,000, almost 700 kilojoules. It says calories, but I have this going off of kilojoules. And you'll see here at the top, I've set a limit for myself of 5,400 kilojoules per day, which I forget what that is in calories, but it's pretty low, like maybe 1,400 calories. I don't always shoot for that, especially on a training day. But it's more of a guidance for me on my rest days to stay somewhat close to that number and not go too far over that number. Just keeps me on track and make sure I don't overeat. And if I'm actually trying to lose weight, that's the number I need to be at if I'm actually trying to actively lose weight.
I think this app might only be available internationally. So here in China, you might want to try something like maybe MyFitnessPal. That integrates a lot into several different training apps. So keeping track of everything is really easy with MyFitnessPal. But I think you need to buy the premium version of that in order to have it really work well for you. So for the ride, I brought 2 gels, 180 grams of carbs in each gel, and I made a video a few weeks ago on the channel showing how I actually make these guys, because I make my own gels, so you can check that out. So I'm shooting for about 90 grams per hour. We're about 45 minutes into the ride right now. Normally I'd wait about an hour before I start consuming these guys, but I'm coming up to my first interval session here, and I'm gonna need the energy, so I'm gonna start popping about a quarter of this right now, and I'll do a quarter probably after the interval. And that'll be a pretty good amount to get us started. First set of intervals is gonna be FTP over-unders. It's 3 by 15 minutes. They're gonna be brutal. It is so hot today. Whew. That's just set one. I'm gonna have to start getting up a lot earlier. This heat. Oh. Two done. One more. Whew. Oh, that's it. 3 by 15 over-unders done. We've already burned almost 1,400 calorie, not kilojoule, but calorie. So we've definitely burned off all of breakfast and then some at this point. We're only 2 hours into the ride. Now time to finish the first half of the endurance. So filled up on water fully. One was Coke, the other one was caffeine free, that was smaller, so I'll take the caffeine. I'm impressed I was able to drink all that, but I think I'm just burning through the calories on this ride. It's so hot. Well, I changed my mind. I'm gonna stop by home real quick for maybe 20-30 minutes to fill up more water and eat lunch. We're about 4 hours into the ride, burned almost 2,300 calories. Didn't need more sunscreen too. All right, lunch is done. I had a batch cooking that I did a few days ago for my wife and I made 12 servings of it, so I don't have to cook every single day for lunch, but still have nutritious food. So I had about 200 grams of rice, some duck breast, a little bit of oil, bell pepper, some hot pepper, celery, and I forget if it also had tomato in it. I have to take a look on macros later and see what was actually in it, but yeah, it felt good to get some solid food in, especially on a long ride like today. And I put sun sleeves on. I noticed my arms were quite red. Actually, my knees are quite red too, looking at them now. I think the new bottle of sunscreen that I just started using this past week, I think it might be a counterfeit. I don't think I'm going to be able to get the second set of intervals in. I was planning on doing VO2 max 4 by 3 minutes. Usually I'll do my over-unders and then immediately right after do the VO2s. And I can usually just barely finish that type of a workout. I think I'd be okay if we were like 20 degrees. But I'm cooked. This is just the beginning of the second endurance loop, and I can already tell like I'm not going to be able to hold high zone 2 power. We're going to be low zone 2 at best. So there's just no way that I can go do a VO2 session won't be cool enough. I'm just gonna totally cook myself. So we're gonna skip that. 157 kilometers, just under 7 hours. Total time, I don't think that's moving time. 5 liters of sweat loss. So I definitely didn't drink enough water, which I was getting a headache on this last endurance loop. That was a good indicator of that. 3,611 calories burned. All right, let's get out of this heat. All right, so ride recap here. Just looking at it over on intervals.icu, which is what I use to track all of my training. So the total work, the active calories for this ride was 3,017 calories. So it's important to make sure that when you're looking at your calories, you're looking at the active calories burned, not the total calories. A lot of apps give you the total calories, but that takes into account your basal resting metabolism burn, which in our macros app, that's already accounted for. So be careful with that, because when I first started, I didn't quite see that, and so it's easy to overeat that way. And on that note, I kind of want to start saying over nutrition instead of overeating. There's a slight difference in the connotation of how you kind of think about things. When you say over nutrition, you're then starting to change your mindset with food and using food as fuel, as a tool in your training, instead of putting kind of this negative thing of like, oh, I always overeat and I need to just eat less in order to lose weight. And that is totally not the way to do it. And another thing with this video in particular and other videos online giving nutrition advice or showing like what I eat in a day when I train, I want to say it's really, really important that we're all individuals. We all have different nutrition requirements, and we all process food differently. And even during our rides, there's a slight difference, individual person to person, of how much of what energy system we tend to end up using. And that comes from a lot of different factors like genetics. Yeah. So if you're at a point where this is kind of overwhelming and you're trying to really like make some changes and dial it in, I would highly recommend reaching out to a nutritionist. I'm not a nutritionist. I have a PhD in chemistry that does not qualify me as a nutritionist. I'm just showing you what I'm currently doing, but I make changes to this all the time, and what I'm doing is not perfect. It needs a lot of changes to be made. I've actually just kind of going through my data in macros. I have a year and a half worth of data, and kind of looking back at it when thinking about this video, I've noticed I have not been taking in enough fat. And I always kind of have had a bad relationship with the thought of fat being bad, all the blubber. But that's really not the case. And I'm probably hampering my performance on the bike by being low in fat. So if I look at when I was 86 kilos, when I started losing weight, I went all the way down to about 0.5 grams of fat, 0.8 grams of fat per kilogram of body weight. And that's not the healthy way to do it. And I can't say that that's why I lost weight. There's so many other reasons why I lost weight, and it wasn't cutting fat down. So I did it in a way that probably wasn't the best way performance-wise for me to do it. If you're 86 kilos and you want to start losing weight, the things you need to keep consistent is your protein and your fat. So you should be getting somewhere around 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, and 1.2 to 1.4 grams of fat per kilogram of body weight. And then you want to start modulating on the carb side. So
And what that means is it's not going to be every single day you're like, oh, I have this amount of protein, this amount of fat, and this amount of carb. No, you have to modulate it based on the activity that you're doing. So if you only do long rides on Saturday and Sunday, which a lot of us do because of our time constraints in life, that means Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you should probably be on a low carb diet on those days if you aren't going to be using carbs in a high output activity. And then Thursday, Friday, you should start thinking about increasing your carb quite a bit so that come Saturday, you have replenished your glycogen stores in your muscles and you're ready and you're well fueled for that ride and you can perform during that ride. And when it comes to your ride, you should be taking in carbs during the ride. So there's a modulation that needs to happen. It's not a one size fits all and every day is the exact same thing. If you're doing the same training every day, you could argue that that's a different situation, but I would also argue if you're doing the same thing every day, your body's going to adapt to that very quickly and you're not going to make adaptations. You're going to see some great progress and then you're going to plateau and you're going to just stay there, if not get worse. So let's jump over to macros and take a look at where we're currently at. So you'll notice macros is all in red at the top here. Just ignore that. It's a glitch in their system. But if you click on the number here, you'll see that we have 2,629 kilojoules remaining. And that's after I've added everything from our ride, and I've added the calories burned from the ride and the recovery meal that I'm about to have right now. So we've got our breakfast in there, we got a ride, we had 2 gels, that Coke, we had lunch halfway through the ride, and then for the recovery, we're going to have milk, soy protein powder, a banana, a pear, and that gives us around a 3-to-1 carbohydrates to protein ratio, which I like doing that for my recovery. I got that from another nutrition podcast, cycling specific. Not that that's an end-all be-all, but that's what I've been doing. And then for dinner, I'm probably going to have to focus on fat after this kind of finding that I've been consistently low on fat. And recently I actually haven't been. I have been hitting the 1.1, 1.2 grams, so I'm within range. But today I'm at 50 grams and I need to be closer to like 80 grams. Protein, we'll hit the protein. I'm pretty close there. So the only thing that might change this, and I might go with overnutrition today, is I need to verify with my wife if we're going to be doing a big ride together tomorrow. She indicated that she wanted to go on a big ride with me tomorrow. And if we do that, I'm going to throw in a lot more carbs for dinner. I'll probably throw in like some pasta with the veggie stir fry that we're going to do. Here's an overview of what we're having. Gonna do some cabbage, carrot, these spicy peppers, some garlic, onion, tomato, some egg, and I am going to add in some more carb, about 75 grams of corn noodle each, my wife and I, because we are going to probably do about a 130K ride tomorrow, 1,800 meters of elevation gain, and then potentially I'm going to ride as well on Sunday. So a couple big days of riding, and that's going to put us a little bit over on the nutrition for the day. Okay, so if we take a look at macros, that's going to put us technically like 540-ish kilojoules over, but that's still under like a baseline of like 6,000 kilojoules for the day, which for me, that's still putting me into technically a calorie deficit. But that gives for dinner about 109 grams of carb. And I was able to fit in my protein values here. I hit 79 grams and or fat values here. I hit 79 grams of fat and 124 protein. My goal is 115 of protein, so not too bad. I wish in this app there was a way to separate the carbs that I intake during the ride for actual feeling of the ride and my baseline carb intake. And that's one of my big complaints about this app, is there isn't a way to separate those things. So if you guys know of an app out there that is better than this and can separate those two categories, that would be awesome. Please let me know. So one of my main goals when cooking, I mean, you'll see like this is pretty simple cooking. My lunch was pretty simple, breakfast was pretty simple, and that's really key for me to eat healthy, is to keep things as simple as possible and not overcomplicate it. And it's basically just a whole food diet. But I try to keep, for at least for dinner, if not for lunch as well, one raw vegetable, so that we get a lot of the fiber. And that's a difference I noticed between some of the Chinese cooking and I don't really want to call it Western cooking because we don't do this in Western cooking, but just my cooking philosophy is I don't use as much oil, and I don't overcook the veggies. I like a crunch to the veggies because then I know that I'm getting a lot of the fiber, and we need fiber in our diet. It's really, really, really important. Well, I guess that's been cooking with Daniel. No, in all seriousness, any takeaways from this, it's you need to think of protein and fat as long-term macronutrients. You need to be getting a set amount of those and then modulate your carb intake day to day based on your upcoming event. And then make sure during your rides or activities to give your body the tool that it needs to perform, aka carbs. And that's really all that I've got around just keeping your nutrition pretty simple. Of course, if I was working with a nutritionist, I could really get this like dialed in, but I think it's not too bad, and it's been working pretty well for me. So if you guys have any thoughts or any improvements to be made, let me know in the comments. And I'll catch you guys on the next ride. Peace.